Sorry. I thought my mic was muted. But since I've been having issues with the crew recently, I figured I'd play some Monster Hunter World and see if that crashes. Oh, it's telling me my bitrate's bad. I'm surprised you can even watch the stream, dude. First like. Wow. I think that's the first time I've ever gotten a first comment before. I can't even remember what I was gonna do. I had something in mind, but I got fucking sidetracked almost immediately. Not by the first thing, by something completely unrelated. There's not many people playing right now. Everyone's waiting for the update. A lot of nothing. A whole lot of nothing. This totally hasn't been done before. Now we look like a badass. I know. The Aquaman suit. It's like Aquaman had sex with a luchador and their costume is that. Like someone took like the skin off of the creature of the Black Lagoon and made a wetsuit out of it. Why do I even know about the creature from the Black Lagoon? You realize how many years before me that was? Like, how does that percolate up through the ages like that? And I'm not the only, like, weird, random introvert that makes jokes or references to Creature of the Black Lagoon. There's a surprising amount of people that know about it, despite the fact the actual, like, movie that it is like from the 50s or 60s or something like that. It's so freaking... I forgot I'm playing Monster Hunter for a second. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna run to the monster. I forgot... Sorry, I should say, I forget I'm playing Monster Hunter World for a second. I don't think it would have helped me much, because he's like in the awkward center of the map anyways. What the hell was that animation? My character, like, did the eating something animation. What the hell did he eat? I didn't get any buff from it. What a ripoff. He ate the little nugget droppings. Get nuked. The Monster Hunter equivalent of a carpet bomb. And the plane kamikazes into you and then starts attacking you because it transforms into a tank. Transformers. Robots in disguise. Air shot. Precise accuracy. Not at all. Swing and a miss. Get back here, you flying squirrel snake. Flying squirrel snake dog cat. Stop moving, dude. Now he's resistant to it for like 30 seconds, so slinger ammo won't stagger him. There you go. Can you... God dang it, dude. You know what I've never done, but I will do? There you go, bud. I should have sharpened my weapon. Mistakes were made. Like, you can't even explain what that style is. It's just weird. But still, like, cool looking at the same time. I've always just described this set as looking like World of Warcraft armor, because that's what it looks like to me. It's like a warlock set. Even though it makes no sense, because you'd figure the barbarian type would have, like, bone shoulder pads and stuff, but wouldn't have a cloak or whatever, but I don't know, I don't design things. I would have taken the, like, cloak off and not had any dangly cloth, and just had it be, like, Skeletor as armor, basically. Because it doesn't allow you to really see the, like, nam 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 that the feet do when you walk. Which is, like, the best part about this armor set. I forgot I gotta stop coming back to my own world. I say world. Back on my own expedition. Whatever. It's Monster Hunter World, dude, so it's my world. It's my world. Monster Hunter World. It sounds like it could have been a shitty advertisement. But then it sounds like it's a completely different game. Like, I understand why they put world in the title, because now their maps are more quote-unquote open world, but it's not open world. So it's not like you can just walk from Astera to the ancient forest. It doesn't work like that. You have to go through a loading screen because they can't load both of the things in together. Would be cool. I would love a Monster Hunter game where the entire world was there. Oh, wait. That's Monster Hunter Online. That's right. That game already exists. It's not developed by the team that developed any of the Monster Hunter games. It's its own thing. Made by a team in China. Doggo. You don't like my offerings of fire? I rolled right into that dunce cap. I'm playing the Binding of Isaac right now. It's Google. Oh, I was trying to roll towards the wall, but the, like, angle I had on the controller made it go towards me. Again, dunce cap. The ground quakes! No, I don't want to be on Kugel Goose. Dang it! That's why I don't really do them that much against him. We'll get that KO. He's not gonna get away without being KO'd. Or he's gonna die. Either one or the other. Fucking hyper bomb. See, I told you. Oh yeah. Right. Don't stab me. Let me just sprinkle some hot metal on your mouth and have you not wake up. But swear to God, if you pull out your weapon and... I don't even want to waste bombs because he's just gonna die anyways. Dead. Go away. You're bad. It's gonna be the same old RNG I'm used to. Oh, what am I doing? What am I actually doing? What are you doing? Them old 20 points, dude. It's a high score. Is the event still going on? Nope. Sorry, I keep hearing weird fucking noises outside, so I keep being quiet to try and hear. Probably not gonna want to go outside tonight. At least not for like 30 minutes to an hour. Sounds like there's a pack of something. Probably coyotes that are going through town right now. Everyone's dog is barking, and all I can hear is these like loud barks and other yips that keep going back to them. And then you hear it, like the coyotes will stop, and you'll just hear the dogs, like people's dogs, and then you'll hear them again in a different area waking someone else's dogs up. Like they just run through, like trying to get into people's shit. Either that or the bear's out there, but the bear hasn't been around for a while. Oh, damn it. Dag nabbit. I always forget to eat. And yes, I just took a fast travel like 20 feet. Deal with it. Wait. Meat. Gotta have that meat. Gotta eat your greens. But most importantly, meat. Vegans are like, I want to kill you. I hate you. I hate me too, so don't worry about it. You wouldn't hate yourself if you were a vegan. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have even said anything. I have vegan friends too. I'm just being a fucking joker, because that's like the preconceived notion of a lot of people anyways. Some people are like that. If you go to India and shit, that's literally the belief, is that the part of the population that doesn't eat meat believes that eating meat is what causes you to be angry and stuff all the time. Even though there's people in their communities that still obviously get angry and argue. So it's like, what logic is that? But it isn't logic, it's fucking religious garbage. But that's coming from a person who still says stuff like, I swear to God. Even though again, I'm not religious, so when I say that, it means absolutely nothing to me. It's just one of those phrases I adopted from the people that I grew up around, more than something that I actually would have used myself, I guess. Sort of just adopt the mannerisms of the things around you. Like, if you go to certain places in New York, a lot of people will just say, God bless, even if they don't believe it. Regardless of if they're, like, Christian or Catholic or whatever the fuck they are, that's just what they say. It's like it's just like a thing you say to be nice. It's just like one of those things. It's not determination of your belief. Even though it technically should be, because that's where it came from, but I don't make rules, I just point out the weirdness. No, why you do this? Can you stop sliding? I don't want to be on a water slide. Come on, circle combo. The game is just like dropping my inputs, dude. Like I'm not mashing the circle button when I'm trying to do the circle combo. Okay, well that's just me whiffing because I'm the whiff lord. Dicks. Dickerino. Yep, saw that coming. Yep. Ooh. Damn it. Of course he would do the circle one. And it wasn't even a normal circle. It was like a stupid tight circle. The donk. I'm playing the tin can over here. He spammed the same button over and over and over again. It's almost like he's doing the same thing I'm doing. I couldn't imagine that animal would actually live very long. Like, they act like all these animals live for incredibly long periods of time if left alone. But something that smashes its fucking face against the ground to kill things, it's like an electric eel. Yeah, it's a good defense mechanism and a good way to kill things, but half of them die to cardiac arrest from shocking themselves to death. I'm not even kidding, if you didn't know that about electric eels. If you wanted to look up some fun information. That's like a misbelief that the electric eel doesn't hurt itself in the process of shocking. Get some nubs, dude. Wow, it needed one hit. Hi, Google Face. That is good, AI. See what I mean by the always have to path back to the center shit that I talk about? Because we were slightly outside of the zone that he was set to in that moment, he had to go and path back to the center of the zone. 'Cause game design. There might as well be loading screens. Because they basically just stitched what would be loaded separately together. And the game still functions almost like the old ones in that manner. The only difference is when a monster has a red eye or is enraged, it will follow you in between zones. That's if it's attacking you. If you're in a party with people, it doesn't always attack you, and it will only follow you very briefly. Can we not? Can we not do this? Stop. If you wanted to simulate what it would be like to have a thorn pod stuck on you, get a sea urchin and then smack it into your leg with a hammer. That's the damage that a thorn pod does. I think that should be actually more devastating than the amount of damage it does in the game. Should be like one pod, but hitting it when it's attached to a monster does like 20 KO damage or something. Because in reality, that'd be like fucking paralyzing. When you get a bunch of deep, barbed needles stuck in you, it literally just makes your nerves start to seize up and you become unable to use that part of your body. That's why porcupine spines can make animals so disabled to the point of dying. Because they'll start to try to pick them off their face with their claws and stuff, and then they get them embedded in their claws, and then they're still stuck in their face at the same time because they break it off without being able to pull out the end. Tip, if you ever do get porcupine quills or your dog gets porcupine quills in your face, what you want to do is you want to get a very sharp pair of like bolt cutters or something designed to cut wire so that you can make the snip fast. And what you do is you snip the end of the porcupine quill and you squeeze near the actual point where it's stuck in and slowly lift up and turn, and the air will be forced out the top, allowing the barbs to fold in so they're not pressed outwards, so you can actually pull out the quill at a time. It still will pull out with some force, but it's not gonna, like, if you try to pull out a quill without clipping the top off, it will rip skin out. Because it's basically got like little tiny fish hook barbs on it. Only reason I know is because that's what they did to me when I was a kid. And me being stupid as like, I think I was either 6 or 7 years old at the time, I foolishly found this hole in the ground. And instead of ignoring it like a smart kid would listen to the adults around them and not go to the hole in the ground that was where the porcupine was staying, and I was like sticking my hand in it, and he just like kicked his rear, like, because if you get your hand close to them and you're about to touch them, what they do to stick you with spines is they'll actually like kick their rear end up into the air really fast. And they don't throw, the quills don't literally get thrown at you, they just, with a really quick movement of their body, stick all of them, and then they unattach from their body at the base of the hard part where it seals so that the barbs stay intact. And I had like 12 quills in one of my hands. Some of them were like halved though, because I had broken them off, like freaking out. So those ones had to be like, they had to like cut it open and pull it out. Because they went in like sidewards and then twisted and shit like that. It was like you couldn't just pull that out. It'd be too rough. But yeah, when the reason I know about it's debilitating this is when I had it in my hand, like just the moving your pinky, if there was one, like say near the area where your pinky was, just moving your pinky would send like a tingling pain through your entire area of your finger and everything, even though your finger wasn't the thing that was affected by it. Again, also, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Sometimes I forget I'm playing this game. That's not fun. Don't go sticking your hand into random holes in the ground unless you have a stick in your hand. Lesson learned. Always use big stick to poke at animal and make it come out of nest first. Don't go digging at shit with your hand. Even in leaf piles. I still sometimes will get like, I'm like, I don't want to grab my shovel to move a little bit of leaf matter. And I'll stick my hands down to grab some like a handful of leaves off the ground or something. And I'll put my hand over the wrong one. And just because I happen to put my hand down the right way, you get bit by something. Or stung by something. That's a very common thing to have happen to me. Every single time I'm out picking berries, I think I get stung by 2 or 3 paper wasps. They're fucking assholes. Because they eat the berries. They fucking use their mandibles and they just tear the things apart and suck the sugars up because they can't digest proteins. So until they have maggots to feed off of, which is what a lot of them would do, they would bring their maggots, insects, and other things to eat, and then what they throw up, the actual wasp itself can eat. But their stings don't hurt at all. It's just like a little burn for a second. I've actually come to... You get like this weird thing where after you start getting stung repeatedly, it starts becoming almost therapeutic in a way. Because your body, again, knows how to deal with it and knows to send like a rush of endorphins or chemicals to that area. So it also like strengthens your immune system and other things. I've been bit and stung by a lot of things over my life. But that's because I actively try to hold things you wouldn't want to hold. My fingers always look like I've stuck them on a bed of needles. Like just holes, pinpricks, little tiny scabs and shit like that all over the place. From thorny plants, holding insects, getting bit by different things. I'll have a container of berries in my hand and they like landing on the berries to eat them, and I'll like fucking swat them away, so they'll get angry and they'll just come back and sting me, and they can, even though they can repeat sting it again, it doesn't hurt me that much. I'm very thick-skinned when it comes to those kinds of things. Now, we have these cricket hunting wasps around here that are they're almost like a jewel blue color. If you look them up, they're really, really cool. Just look up cricket hunting wasp or something like that. And they will fucking sting you, and that shit hurts. I don't know what about their sting makes it so different from the other wasps. And wasp related to the cricket hunting wasp. The sting from that is like a searing pain that continues in waves. Again, I don't know exactly what their taxonomical name is, but we have them all over the place here. You see them, a lot of people will be like very scared to go out and garden because they'll see them like going around the edges of their gardens and their houses. But what they're actually looking for are crickets and other things. You also see mud dauber wasps, or just mud daubers themselves. They can vary in color, size, shape as well. They're thin-waisted with a very long stinger profile because they use it to attack spiders, and they need to have the extra long stinger to be able to stay out of the spider's web range for spiders that can actively throw web with their legs. Or, well, they don't throw it, they just have really long legs and they just sort of like whip it out at it. There are some spiders which are really, really good at that. Orb weavers specifically are known for being very, very good at wrapping up stuff without touching them, because they have very, very long legs. There's a spider called the Ogre Spider, or the Ogre Face Spider, something like that. And that spider actually builds a net every night, and it holds a net, and when something walks underneath the area where it's hanging, it drops the net literally like an active tool and then picks it back up on the drawstring that it had like attached to it. It's a really, really cool spider. At least just the action of what it does is. There's so much variance in how spiders use their web. or what they do with it. Spiders, I will actively, like, make spiders invade different territories because I want them to keep insects low. So around my squash plants, I introduce these little, I can't remember what they're called because they have such a weird name, but the only way I can describe them is they're like a white with like little orange lines down their back, and what they do is they live on the underside of leaves. And they like curl the leaf in a little bit to build their egg sacs underneath the leaf. And I introduce those things onto the plants because they don't inhibit the leaf growth. They just sort of curl it around so the leaf can't perfectly be like in the most optimal sun position, if you know what I mean. But it's just one leaf, and that one leaf, like any aphids or anything that comes by that leaf, that thing targets him and takes him out. They're in a great natural way. I also try to capture the little funnel weavers sometimes. I'll be outside with a little container and one of those like soft-ended horse brushes, because I use it to actually like scrape the spider off of stuff without hurting them, because grabbing them with forceps on their legs is actually terrible for the spider. You don't ever want to like pinch a spider's part of its body. Well, you can technically you could pinch them by the body, although they wouldn't like it too much. When you pinch them by the legs, it puts the hydraulic pressure, their hydraulic blood pressure that they use to move, and it inverts the pressure back into their system, meaning that they have to spend extra energy rebalancing the hydraulic blood pressure in their legs and everything. If you don't know how spiders work, they have liquid in their legs, and that's how they can move. And why they can have the weird joints that can bend at those, because they're pretty much like a hydraulic crane arm. That's exactly what they function like, but they have to circulate that stuff back into their system and repump it back out, or else they become unable to move. Wow. If you ever have a spider in a container, and I don't recommend doing this, but a way that you could see this, if you keep scaring a spider over and over and over and over again, like, most spiders will slowly get slower and slower over time to the point of, like, coming to a near stop and then curling up like they're dead. Because they literally just can't even move their legs anymore. It's impossible for them. They have to sit and breathe, but a lot of the time that period also causes them to die, even though they didn't literally they didn't die from anything other than inability to have proper fluid regulation. A lot of spiders will even use their exhaustion as a playoff for playing dead. So black widows and like redback spiders from Australia, what they'll do when they feel threatened sometimes and their hydraulic blood pressure is low, they'll just play dead. And they'll act like they're dead. They'll curl up even and act completely stiff as if they're dead. But then you'll go to pick them up, or the thing will go to squish them, and they'll suddenly just and spaz off because they've regulated their blood pressure in that like few moments when you thought it was dead. Spiders are way smarter on an instinctual level, more so than anything else. like knowing exactly what they like and how to find it. Like, how the fuck different species of spiders make it elsewhere because one spider blows in the wind and then builds a web. But some spiders literally only inhabit specific kinds of things. They don't just make a web anywhere. Like the spotted orb weavers that I captured and had in the terrarium, I let them go just because they wouldn't eat inside of the container, and if they weren't gonna eat, I wasn't gonna keep them inside of the container because it made no point. They would just die of starvation, even though they can last months without having to be fed. I don't see a point. They don't like captivity as far as I could tell. They had plenty of space because I had gotten a much bigger terrarium, but it just wasn't enough branch or whatever thing that it liked to make its web on, because I figured out through watching them enough that they like this like lace type stuff that we have outdoors, and that's the only type of shit that I see those spiders on. Everywhere else that I've walked and I've looked at people's bushes and stuff like that, those spiders aren't there. Because when that spider makes a web, it also curls 2 to 3 leaves of this lace leaf, because the lace has like these 3 lobed leaves that stick out, and what it does is it will curl all 3 of them together and create like this little perfect cone cup that it attaches the middle string to the center of its web that it creates on like a branch that's sticking up out or something close by. So like, imagine there's like a flower stem for the lace. It's making its web from like a lace plant to a lace plant, and then there would be one in back of where the web is, where its actual like resting quarters are, I guess you'd say, and it makes a string all the way from the center of the web so it can feel the entirety of the web on one string pulled all the way back to its web and stuck to the leaf structure. So when anything lands on the web, it can feel it because it makes that entire little section of thing where the spider's staying vibrate, and the spider runs out on the little drawstring to the thing and webs it up and then goes back in, and well, it bites it while wrapping it up to make it die, because their venom's fairly weak, so they don't kill stuff that fast. And they'll just wait for it to become nearly lifeless, and then they'll come back out and start sucking on it. Almost all spiders, I mean, if you watch an episode about spiders on any sort of show, they're always like, and the spider vomits up digestive enzymes, and a bunch of other shit. But that's what all spiders do. But they always act like it's unique to the spider that they're fucking broadcasting. But it's like, no. Pretty much every single spider that you know of vomits digestive enzymes into the thing, which then breaks it down, and then they eat it. Some of them can eat meat, but it's more the bigger ones, and it has to be fresh. It can't be old, and it's mostly tarantulas, not true spiders. Because spiders get all of their moisture out of the food that they eat. They don't drink water. Very, very few, if any. I don't know a single thing that's an insect or a spider that actively drinks water. I'm pretty sure most of them get their nutrients and water from the food that they eat. I know just about every grasshopper I catch, it does this weird thing, and I don't know if it's just what all grasshoppers do as like a defense reaction, but they all start to vomit immediately upon being caught. And I'm not like, when I catch a grasshopper, I just put a container over them, and then I'll grab them by their wing casing and just lift them up into the air like that. And they'll be kicking their legs and a couple other things, because that's what those are what normally the orb weavers would catch in their super sticky webs, or small grasshoppers and beetles and things like that. So I was trying to feed them to the spiders, but they're just so picky. Unless I had like the terrarium with fresh plants grown in it that the thing had the perfect leaf structure to make it on, it was never going to make a nest in there. It just kept sitting in the corner, huddled up. The upper corner of the tank, not the bottom. Never the bottom. I don't think I ever saw that spider on the bottom once. Not since I put it in. And it's not that I don't know how to care for spiders either. I've cared for other types of spiders, just not that one that has a very specific thing that it likes to do when it makes its web. And if you don't have the exact thing that it wants, it just doesn't care and will just shut down until you let it go. Because the second I let it go, it immediately started acting like it was completely fine. Because when I would have it in the containers, it wouldn't even react to there being something else in there. It would just hunker down even more if the grasshopper jumped up next to it or anything. It would just act scared. It wouldn't even attack the thing, even when it was caught in the little bit of web that it would lay down to move around faster. Because it wasn't laying down like any food catching web, it was just laying down traversing web. Which is what most orb weavers do when they're just trying to get to the place where they're going to make a web, not actually make one there. Almost all of those types of spiders do that. You have them on your hand or your arm, and people will initially freak out because they don't expect the spider to start leaving a trail of web along them. And you have to be careful, because people sometimes will freak out because when you go to take the spider off, obviously the web stays attached to the spider, and the spider uses that to get back to the other person if you don't cut the line upon trying to take the spider off to a different person. Like if it crawls from, like let's say if it's on one person's hand and you try to put it on another person's hand, you have to cut that little bit of silk that it leaves in between it so it doesn't draw back to the other person when you go to put it in the container again. Because their web's amazingly strong. Gotta take these berries inside. Hard to believe we're still getting berries at all. But that plant did, or I say that plant, all those berry bushes did a weird thing where they put out, like some of the new growth. Normally with a berry bush, you have a second year stem, and a stem after the second year will always put out fruit. It'll put out some amount of fruit. Very rarely does a berry bush grow in the first year and flower in the first year. But we've had that happen around here, I guess because we've had really good weather or something. Southern-like weather, that some of the new single or first year canes have started to shoot out flowers and started to put out berries, so you get a more staggered harvest of berries that lasts way longer. I know at the berry bushes at my house, we very rarely ever got the new canes to send out flowers. They just would send out suckers and just branch everywhere. And you'd have to like twist them around each other slightly to not have it just create this tangle weave that you can't get through to pick anything. Which is what happens in nature. They'll create such a tangled weave of berry bushes that actually trying to get inside, you think there's ground and you go to take a step and it's just all the way to the bottom because there's like a foot solid layer of dead cane on the ground. And all the dirt underneath gets eroded away because the top doesn't sink with it. So you go to step into sometimes what you think is the ground, and you step into a hole that's like a foot deep inside of the middle of berry bushes, and all your clothes get like ripped up off of you. Your skin gets like impaled with different spikes of varying ages, so you get like small splinters of berry thorns. Around here, some of the berry bushes are, well, I don't want to say the berry bushes, because obviously the plants have like gone over a bunch of generations over the years, but they've stayed in the same place for that many years. Like, people always talk about heirloom tomatoes and stuff, but you get your own heirloom varieties in your native areas just due to things adjusting to that habitat. Around here you can visit 3 different patches of berry bush and get what is the same species, but all 3 of the berries taste completely different from the different bunches of bushes, and even some of the bushes within a bunch tasting different than the initial ones that you pick. So the normal rule of thumb when you're picking berries is always try one from a bush, if it's a new bush anyways. Because, like, you can see the cane with all the berries attached to it. If it's a separate cane, you want to try that, because all of them will have a different root system unless they all come out of that same, like, root ball. Because the root ball will overwinter and send up a new sucker or a new runner, which will then send up a sucker if the plant doesn't seed in a distance from, like, birds eating it or whatever. Hello? Video game. Oh, I thought it was gonna disconnect me. At least I don't have to worry about this game crashing. I don't know why the crew does that so often. I've had Monster Hunter crash maybe twice. And I know it was due to internet, not the actual game. One of the times it crashed, it was when I was looking at arena times. The other time it crashed, I was looking at guild cards. So they were both like internet and or packet related problems. Dang it. I'm stunned because my character put the weapon away. Or not. I guess Greatsword just puts their weapon away when they get knocked on their ass. I never noticed that. Why did I do that? What was I expecting to accomplish? Come over here. I want you to come over here. Come over here. Never mind. Fucking Farfig Noogans. Oh wait, that's right, I have earplugs on this build. This is my hit good and health good build. This is what I should have named it. Hit good, health good. That is if you know how to use a greatsword anyways. That's why you don't use that attack. I try to give people the benefit of a doubt by always experimenting with stuff, but I always see it just outputting such low damage unless you use it after tier 2 charged attack. Or a true charge slash, I should say. Sorry, strong charge slash. Charge slash, strong charge slash, true charge slash. Dang it! That's what you get for not having focus on your armor set, dude. Son of a... Hey! Yeah, there's just no point in using the wide slash unless it's after a strong charge slash. Because it doesn't... It's just such bad damage. Like, that was only a 36 and that still had charge level retained in it. I realize that my weapon is not white sharpness anymore either. Holy predicted. Flarp. Dang it. I thought I timed that roll pretty good, but that hitbox lasts for a long time. Son of a court. Dang it! If only I had focus. Does this build have focus? It does have focus. Weird. I feel like the greatsword is slower than I'm used to, but maybe it's because I haven't played this game in a week or two. Well, I mean, I played it the other day, but I mostly just used the charge blade and the sword and shield. I don't think any or much of what I did saved though, because I was running into connection issues at the time. That's why I kept saying that I think crew crashing was also due to my internet being like fucked up recently. What is this game? See how low damage that is? Compared to 2 triangles, which takes about the same amount of time. And you can put your weapon away after and run. Hell, even a tackle into a triangle is better, damage-wise. That took way longer than I'm used to. Out of everything the update is going to bring, I'm honestly interested in the weapon changes more than anything else. Here, let's try this not against a monster that's a Gigantor. Hello, Bugaboo. Deado, spaghetto. Are you just gonna... What is this, dude? What is this? This is some next level lag. I haven't seen this bad a lag since fucking Dark Souls 3 when it came out. I have a video of the dancer of the Boreal Valley, like just glitching across the screen like a fucking... I've never seen something happen so bad in a game like that before. It's like when Bloodborne, all the textures turned red and started flickering on my screen, and I thought my PlayStation 4 was broken, but it was just an error when I loaded into someone's game who had like killed all the monsters in the environment, and for some reason the blood texture just, I guess, was too much for the server, and it just loaded the blood texture on literally everything, and it was just this like black flickering surface. I can't really affect him with anything. He seems to ignore just about every element of stun I try to impart on him. Hello? Is this guy using like some sort of lag switch or like hack, or what is going on here? Nothing is affected by anything I do. I'm affected by them, though. Damn it. Damn it. I climbed the thing too early, so I didn't consume the lychee. What is going on? What is even happening? Is my internet like... No, my internet's fine. It's this guy. what is going on. This is like a different... Dang it. Why me, asshole? My tomatoes finally starting to turn red today. The cherry tomatoes. Nitro Toad. Gotcha. Ooh. What was that? You like flew up into the air for a second. Dang it, I keep doing that. You are dead. Not a big surprise. I blocked the bomb, which I think made it explode closer to people. Ooh. It's a tiny pickle. He's a little baby. He's a gherkin. I think he's a gherkin. He ain't no pickle. Excuse me, lads. Let me... Dang. I don't know why I'm like trying to fend off Mr. Ajobo over here. Dusty old bones, full of green dust. Now I got myself thinking about this stupid King of the Hill thing. Dusty old bones, full of green dust. The green dust is salt mixed with weed. What, did he not? He used one trank bomb. How did I know that noob was just gonna keep button mashing? How didn't that hit? This is a long gun lance, not a short gun lance. God damn it. Dodge and reload. There you go. Dodge load. Okay, that worked out. Holy God, that was like one of the laggiest matches I've ever had of this game. Laggiest hunts. Whatever you want to call it. Oh shit. There we go. I always forget. Didn't forget. Sorry, I grabbed my berries, so I was eating them. Gotta have those berries. 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 I know no one probably cares, because this is a really, really dumb thing to care about, but Germa and Star, two people who used to make a lot of content together, they had like this thing where they had just stopped playing games for a while, and it just so happened to be they stopped doing it after there was a bunch of bullshit that happened with like a specific D&D live stream that they were gonna do. And so a lot of people, including me for the longest time, just thought that they were angry at each other. But apparently they're just playing it off as, no, we just had different things we wanted to do. I'm talking like Germa right now. I just can't do his voice. I wish I could. I'd probably be funnier just based off that, just having a better voice. I have a shit voice. If there was a A to Z ranking for voice, I'm probably a Y. How much you want to bet? This guy's pretty much already done. Yep. Done. Donezoed. Oh, fuck. Why do I keep doing that? Oh, wait, no, I need that. Glainsector. Glasher. Because it's the gas slasher. The hash slinging slasher. Oh my god. Well, rip. So much for stream. No. So all the new stuff they're going to add is going to basically be impossible to do. Great. That's going to be fun. You know what I want to farm? Random chance bullshit with a bunch of my friends, so inevitably everyone will get shit, and then there'll be the one guy who doesn't. But your friends are like, I gotta go to bed. I really want to do Valhazak. Preferably tempered. Oh, I know why they're, like, emphasizing the deciding role stuff. I'm... Alright. It's because it's gonna be like a Final Fantasy quest. I got it. See. I don't even need to know stuff about it to already start to be able to theory craft how it's gonna be. And how bullshit it's probably gonna be. I already don't even like it, and it isn't even out yet. Just give me a monster to fight, dude. I don't want any other bullshit. No one does. I don't know how many times I need to say it. If you just stuff the fucking game full of monsters, you'll get way more people consistently playing. There's just not enough variety for most people. I personally don't care, but I never look at anything from inside the glass jar that is my brain. It's just like with Neo. I can understand why someone would say that the enemy design gets repetitive and that it can get boring just because of that. But if that's what makes you like that kind of game, then I don't know why you're playing it. It's normally what I argue. Playing those types of games is like an addiction to the combat, more than anything. Lemonade. I'm probably gonna get drunk the day that it comes out just to avoid how bad it's probably gonna be, just so my drunkenness can take over for me. Oh. How is it? Wait. If rolls are important, I'm assuming, like, how is that gonna work? I guess you're all gonna have to do a specific thing on the battlefield more than anything else. Unless they literally have turned the new fight into like a fucking World of Tanks-esque like game mode where it's its own thing that's completely unrelated to how the actual game plays. Because if so, I'm gonna be so fucking ticked off it's not even funny. Like, if they somehow make it like some turn-based shit, I'm done. Like, done. That'll be a not even gonna waste my time type of thing on it. It's not what I signed up for when I signed up for Monster Hunter. Oh my fucking god. Eat a dick. Eat a fucking cleft dick. Yeah, that's right. Eat a clefted dick. You heard me, Walhazak. They wiretap the microphone and the boss responds to you. Dang it, I pressed R2 circle as well. Fuck! Don't spam, asshole. Why do mobs always spam at me? Son of a toggle switch. Oh, you. Pick it up! Squash. Yeah. Squeeze! You just got squeezed. Squeeze-alicia. Son of a squanch. No! Thanks! Oh. Tough boy. Hmm. Got some tater thoughts. They're tater tots in the shape of a cloud. I don't actually, but that would be a funny thing. Trademark. Copyright. And you can't copyright that, but I'm going to. Sue me, everyone. Tater thoughts. Either that or make it shaped like an ass. Like a butt, not a donkey, obviously. Fuck, I forgot to... I was so focused on my hunger. And being not funny. That'd be something you could sell to the kids at school. Tater thoughts. You know they'd buy them up like fucking hotcakes. No, I've always found it weird how in like small towns like this, you have places that have like ice cream stands and shit on the side of the road, and it's just an ice cream stand. Why isn't there like places that just do like fried dough? Like you drive next to the ice cream stand, you get like fried dough, and then you get some like ice cream with it, and you're gonna have that on top of the fried dough, and it's just like, I'm a fucking genius, dude. Just need to hire me to set up food. I'll make America fat again. And I'm a skinny dude. Of course, I'm pretty physically active, and even though I do eat like half dog shit, I also do eat a lot of stuff that's just wild. So I have a very, very strong, what the hell do they call it? Like, I want to say gut bacteria, but there's a specific, like, word for, like, all of it collectively. Oh, such an idiot. Can't think of it right now. I also need to get another drink. But no, I wasn't kidding. I had some steak and tater tots earlier, and I had some that I didn't eat, that I had just stuck over there on the table until I was gonna get rid of them. Because I mean, unlike fries and stuff like that, if you do those right, they still stay like crunchy and good, even like an hour or two later. Fries tend to get like oily. I don't know if it's because of the way that a tater tot is made that it makes it stay better for longer, but yeah, it still stays like crunchy on the outside, but not dry in the middle. It's a bad tater tot. You don't want your tater tots dry in the middle. No. Mm-mm. Onigashima. Owned Iwi. I also have this Weathers Originals caramel popcorn with sea salt and pretzels. See? I told you I don't always. I eat absolute trash half of the time. But, well, I mean, this isn't absolute trash. This company actually, even though it's a very popular company, makes products that aren't that bad. It doesn't even have high fructose corn syrup in it. So, as much as people always think bad of big brands, at least this brand isn't. Oh, wait. There's a lot of caramel on that piece. I couldn't talk. It's just like these. You know how like honey bunches of oats is like a bunch of oats and stuff stuck together with honey as a cereal? That's what this stuff is, but with caramel, and it's like each chunk of it here. This is a sound. This is what this sounds like when it hits the table. It's basically just like candied popcorn with like pretzels meshed into the caramel. It's actually a lot better to get the bags in the winter because they stay better without the pretzel and all that shit melting and making the popcorn super caramelized, which in and of itself is like a completely different thing. Because you'll get it sometimes, it'll be all nice and separated and proper, and not a lot of it will be melted together. Because when it melts together like that, it basically just becomes a sucker. You can't even bite through it, because it's so solid. Like that piece. It's just straight caramel. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. That's what his fucking thing is. His mount call out. No, wait a minute. I was trying to shoot my slinger. I was holding L2. Time to grab another fucking candied rock. You're gonna want to do that fast, bud. Wow. I can't believe. Like, I don't know if they realized you can't put pretzels in the same bag as popcorn and then coat it in caramel. Because no pretzel will stand on its own ground if the bag ever gets to the point where it melts even slightly. You rarely ever find a lone pretzel. It's like glass. Oh my god, I forgot to go back to Astera again. I've remembered only one time. Why isn't it the default option? The option should be to change to stay or change to go back to the gathering hub. Especially if you're trying to do SOS flares. Sue's son. I wonder if it's Sue's son. Sue's son. I didn't even... Excuse me, that wasn't supposed to be like that. You know, like, sometimes you just can't control it because you've been eating stuff that just, like, makes your stomach a slurry, and it's so thick that even the burp just is like, I can't even be a loud burp, dude. It's just gotta be a slow runner. Nasty. Don't know if anyone's been going for the tails or not, but I'm gonna do that. Oh, I was blocking. The booster. Use The booster. Screws the boost. Screws. 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 Oh my god, Susan. You retard. Stop! They did the same exact animation, mirrored. It's totally a male and a female. If it wasn't for the dumbass gunland chooser. Why do people go up on the rims? You don't rim the Tim. Lewd. Why are they all like... Can I get one that's like 0, dude? That's a 0. And that's a big fat noperino? Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Haha. I could have guessed that one too. Yeah. No, it's already too late. Sure. Bagel Kugel. Otherwise known as kamikaze. I should have just called him that for the fun of it. Capcom's about jokes, right? I'm sorry, was that insensitive? It's only insensitive if people are sensitive. I'm sorry. I was trying to do something. Because I put too much caramel on a pretzel. I can barely fit it in my mouth. I think it sounds better this way, so I'll just leave it like that. I always wondered, it was like to have one of those funky brush things in your mouth. Now I know. Just use a big pretzel. Oh, I didn't want to slide. Oh, Benjamin Buttons. Benjamin and his glorious buttons. Nope. Excuse me. Squeeze! Like squeeze! Something about hentai. How dare you mount? You mount very rudely. You need to control your lust. just gonna give him noggin foggers all day long. How's those foggers tasting, dude? How's that slugger factory? I can't hit him, he's too high. He's got the power of flight. Did I didn't go back to Astera again. Despair. And he gave me fucking blue garbage anyways. Oh yay, you get Venom and Flight Jewel. It's not like I've already had like 70 of those. I've had probably over 150 to 200 Flight Jewels. You gotta have a lot of gems when you have over 1,500 quests complete. When your investigation counter is 999. Hold on. Let's look at my guild card. Look at your guild. I don't even want to be part of a guild. Guild style sucks, nerd. Give me one of the Monster Hunter World Generation stuff, you know? I want them to stop making the gimmicky monsters. Give me just more monsters. The Rotten Vale still only has 3 fucking monsters that are living in it. And one of them isn't even unique to that area. Oh, someone... Delgax. What's up? I was just about to go out and smoke a cigarette. I normally take a break every hour, but I've been going a little bit longer than an hour every time. Trying to, anyways. Is my mic not on or something? I'm kidding, of course it's on. Ow. My hair sometimes gets stuck on the where they pinch the screen in the door. Because I'm a long hair dude. Not much insect life tonight now that it's dropped below 60. It's so weird how that's like the governing temperature for a lot of them. If it goes below 60, they don't even make noise. Because I know there's at least a couple hundred of them in the leaf matter that I have near my gardens and stuff like that. That's less than 10 feet away from me. Compare that to last night. I came out here and that's all I could hear. I wouldn't even be able to hear the owls. It's a clear night though. The moon is bright, but even though the moon is bright enough to cast shadows, it's still less than 1 lux. And if you want a comparison's sake, if you don't know what lux is or anything, that doesn't really matter in this case. You can look that up for a better definition than me trying to explain it to you when I'm overtired. But the moon, at its brightest, a full moon, is about 1 lux, or less than 1 lux. The sun, depending on where you are, because of course you go up in an atmosphere and more of it penetrates, but on average you're going to get like 100,000 to 150,000 if I remember correctly. But believe it or not, plants do like nighttime if it has been really sunny the day before. Because plants, although they do grow during the day, will do a lot of their growing during the micro movements that they do at night. Especially plants that move individual parts of the plant every day. Like bean plants, for example. At night, all the leaves fall vertically. So the leaves are like flat against the plant stems, is what it looks like. It almost looks like the plant's wilted, in a sense. But it hasn't. The same thing happens with wood sorrel. Wood sorrel closes and folds the little leaves in at night, and then when the sun comes out in the morning, it flips them back open. And a lot of the time, like, those micro movements help stretch the plant out and cause it to grow more. And same thing with wind. Plants grown inside without fans or artificial wind will grow really stretchy and thin, even with a lot of lighting, because you need the wind to induce the hormone that would cause them to pull magnesium and other things out of the soil that stiffen the plant stalk and make it thicker, so it can actually stand its ground. Depends on the plant, though. But that's the case for a lot of plants that grow in bushes or vines. Even things that don't get that way, if they're not allowed to, like, synthesize certain nutrients out of the soil, they'll get really, really stringy, and it's normally an easy way to tell if you have a deficiency in the soil of the plant's ability to pull the water-soluble versions of the nutrients that are in your fertilizers, because a lot of the time fertilizers you put in the ground they have like nutrients in them that are, for example, nitrogen. They'll put nitrates and other things in it, in fertilizers, which is a fast-acting form of nitrogen, if you didn't know. And the fast-acting form of nitrogen can be applied to your plant directly, and that your plant can pull up immediately from the soil. It doesn't need to break down or have something happen to it. And then you have other versions of chemicals. So let's say you're talking about calcium. The plant can only absorb calcium by itself, but you have a lot of smart gardeners will know that you can't keep using the same soil years and years and years without having to add things in to balance out certain elements in the soil. Because if you plant a lot of nutrient-craving plants, it just naturally depletes the soil if you don't let the plant have some of the things, because you harvest a lot of what the plant would put back into the dirt, sort of thing. So you put like eggshells, which, if you don't know what eggshells are made of, they're made of calcium carbonate, which calcium carbonate cannot be absorbed by the plant as its own element, but it can be broken down, and when the actual calcium is freed, it can then be absorbed by the plant when the eggshells break down. And a lot of the time the problem people have is not having a balance of that, or they have a lack of microbes in the soil which break down things like that to turn it into actual stuff that your plant can use. Because a lot of the shit that they put into shit like Miracle-Gro, because the mix is sterile a lot of the time, it has no good or bad bacteria in it to avoid transferring problems between bags when you're trying to bring soil to different areas. That's why when you actually get real good soil that comes in bags, it'll normally list different areas specifically where that product is sold and what that product has in it when it's sold in that area, because they don't want to put something that's bad for one area in the soil for that area and accidentally get an invasive weed that's growing there, sort of thing. or an invasive bacteria, nematode. There's a bunch of different things that you can accidentally put into another area that can affect and kill off different types of heirloom varieties that wouldn't be immune to whatever virus would be in that soil that plants that grow in that environment are naturally resistant to. Why a lot of the time you have heat and or drought resistant varieties of things. Because sometimes it might be really hot but dry, other times it might be really hot but humid, and for almost every single fruiting plant that you grow in your garden, hot, humid means... Sorry, I'm trying to hold back coughing. Hot and humid means that you're going to get some sort of disease. And as much as people don't like to have to spray stuff on their plants, it will mean that you will have to use some amount of natural spray to keep that back. But of course, people don't like doing that. When you grow vegetables, for example, dealing with small insects, moths, and other things is always a common problem. And one of the only ways to deal with them is to spray for it. But it also makes it so that when you go to harvest, you have to very, very, meticulously wash off your harvest before you eat it, or else you'll get the taste of whatever the fuck you sprayed it with on it. For example, you can use a mixture of really, really diluted soap and water to kill off soft-bodied insects on plants that have huge infestations. But you have to be careful because not all plants can handle having that soapy shit on their leaves for very long, if at all. And what will happen a lot of the time is it will actually cause the leaves to burn off completely from the oil being on them. And that's why if you ever go to do this, from me saying it, make sure that you only spray a little bit on a test plant. Or if you don't have a test plant and you only have one that you're trying to keep really nice, spray like one very bottom leaf and see if the plant reacts badly to it in the next couple days. Because it won't be an immediate reaction that you'll be able to tell in a couple hours. It'll be like, you'll spray it, you'll come back in a couple days, and the leaf will look like all of a sudden it's necrotic and black and disgusting. Indicating that it pretty much got burnt off by that. Or it might just be yellow if it didn't burn that badly, but still prevented like chlorophyll and everything from being properly made. You end that up with people who also use what are called foliar sprays, which are like a nutrient spray but for your plant to get fast-acting nutrients that it would be deficient of in the soil. This applies a lot more to people who grow in containers or grow indoors. You put nitrates of specific things inside of, again, water, and then you just spray it on the plant. But you have to make sure that it's diluted enough that it doesn't cause it to burn. Because that's what people will do when they notice calcium deficiencies in tomato plants, for example. If you don't know how to detect if you have that one's actually very simple. And you probably have seen it at the supermarket or the farmer's market near you, if you've ever looked at the tomatoes. A calcium deficiency in a lot of fruiting plants shows up as some form of, like, I don't want to necessarily say rot, but it's like a lesion on the bud. And for tomatoes specifically, that's known as blossom end rot, but it has a number of different effects across different plants. So for tomatoes, what that does is, at the very bottom of the tomato, the end of the blossom where the tomato pulls in and starts to form from, you get this brown spot, or a streak that sort of looks brown at the very bottom, instead of it just being a little, like, pinprick, which is what it should be, because that's what the actual end of the flower is. It's just a little, like, pinprick. Or if it's on a beefsteak tomato, it's like pointed outwards and it has the, like, almost pointed end on it. Cherry tomatoes are a little bit more bulbous and they have just, it almost looks like a grape end. But you can tell that immediately, because the second the tomato starts to form, the bottom of it will be black. But this can also be caused by, and I don't see people talking about this, but I've had it caused on plants that did not have a calcium deficiency, because they already had tomatoes that were setting after that tomato set, and that one had some sort of blossom rot on it. But it was in that the tomato, like, normally on a plant like that, if the flower doesn't get pollinated, what will happen is it'll rot off at what is called the knuckle, which is where the, like, tomato flower bends off of the little cluster that the tomato grows on. Sorry, I was just trying to at least get off one fucking helm breaker. But yeah, this tomato is like tiny, green, and it has a huge brown spot on it. So it had some sort of lesion on the flower bud, or the flower bud got partially destroyed by something, like clipped by something. A bug came by and either bit it or did something to it that wasn't just pollinating it. Because every single other tomato on this plant, because this is my healthy plant that I was talking about that's just outside, out front there, and it's 5 feet tall now. As of now, it is 5 feet tall. It's just barely coming up to, like, the top of my mouth to my nose, because I'm a short dude. And it's inside of this trellis, like I was saying, made up of a bunch of stakes with twine in between them. I like using twine because even though people say it degrades really easy in sun and stuff like that, I haven't had that issue. I've used it for multiple years sometimes when tying certain things together. Because normally what I'll do is I make I make little mini trellises to stick around my container plants out of actual sticks and the bottom legs of actual tomato cages. I don't know why I said actual. Just like the metal cheap tomato cages that you get. A lot of the time they have really long legs, but you can't stick them into the ground around here because the ground around here is literally just all rock gravel type shit once you dig more than 2 feet down, due to how they built the substrate for the houses to be placed on and the trailers and stuff like that. It's a pain in the ass to try and dig up if you're making a garden, so most people just do raised beds. I'm one of the only people that actually plants into the ground because I dig up a small section of the rocks because what that'll do is it'll actually create a pocket in the rocks that becomes a target for all the water to go down because it's lower than the rest of them. And plants that like a lot of moisture and anaerobic or an aerobic, however you're supposed to say that, an oxygen-free environment, because there's so much water. You'll get like a section of peat down the center of your garden and it looks really nice. You can basically create like a mini peat marsh in the middle of the garden, which helps for plants that love acidity. This isn't good if you have plants that like alkaline soils, like broccolis and stuff like that. Well, I wouldn't say they necessarily love alkaline soils, but they don't like acidic soils like tomatoes grow in. However, tomatoes, you can use that peat moss that grows in the center to mix into your compost to add something that absorbs water while also adding extra acidity, because adding stuff like calcium and other things to the soil will slowly lime it, make it alkaline, which for tomato plants and other plants like that, alkaline soil makes it impossible for them to take nutrients out of the soil. Tomatoes like their pH in between like 6.2 and 6.8, but I find like 6.0 to 6.5 is actually the better margin. I have some planted in the ground right next to that, like I said, where I put some peat moss in, and now it's started to like spread out across the entire thing. Not the entire, just that section where it's specifically more deoxygenated, which also prevents the tomatoes' roots from growing there, so it's not going to interfere, because the tomato roots will only grow in oxygen-rich soil, even though they like acidic stuff. That's why you use the peat moss once it starts to grow too far out. You just cut sections of it out because it grows like a rug or a carpet almost. And you just cut sections of it out, let it decay, and then add it to the compost, and it's really, really good. It has a similar effect that coffee grounds has on the acidity of the soil. I don't add many fruits or veggies like human waste into compost. At least into the compost that I use all the time. Because I have a pile that I like constantly take the soil out of the bottom to use, and then I just stack more stuff on top of it. Or restack the stuff that was already there and just flip it over so that it breaks down more. Because it takes less than a month for a lot of that stuff to break down when you're doing it correctly, and you have a proper mix of like green to brown for like not too much rot but not too little of it breaking down. I know it's like nerdy gardening bullshit, but a lot of people don't consider rot or anything like that to be a part of it. And we're in the rotten vale, so this would be compost heaven. Rot isn't necessarily compost, though. You want what comes after that. At least in terms of fresh organic matter. Green stuff gives you mostly nitrogen, whereas brown stuff gives you like potassium and phosphorus. That's why just making a mulch, if you just want to make like a simple thing to feed soil to have just a slow breakdown of nutrients, grass clippings, tree leaves, it doesn't really matter the type, although hardwood leaves take a little bit longer to break down than softwood, so it really depends on what trees you have around. But really just hardwood leaves you have to shred to a finer consistency. If you have kids, you can give your kids something fun to do and just tell them to go rip up leaves and place them in your garden. It also helps as ground cover. One of the few things that I see a lot of people make mistakes of, even in my local area, that I always tell them to stop doing. Or, I don't tell them to stop doing it, I tell them, like, I suggest them to do something else. The way that I worded that sounded way different than I meant. It's just because I'm tired. If you couldn't already tell. But yeah, the mistake is like not laying down something that prevents water from hitting the dirt and splashing it back up on your plant. That is one of the worst things you can do. Especially if you make your own compost, because if you compost plants, sometimes you might compost a plant that had a disease in it, that even though that plant wasn't showing any signs of that problem because it was resistant to it, you put another plant in that soil and that soil splashes up onto the leaves and you don't clean it off. You don't go there with like a little spray bottle and clean it off, because if you like squirt it with a watering hose at full blast or high pressure, the only thing that's going to do is it's going to splat more dirt up on it in a different way. So what you have to do is you have to put down a small layer of either, if you want to go synthetic, an easy way to do that is to put down a plastic. Like if your plant, let's say your plant is like in a 2x2 foot area, cut a 2x2 foot section out of a black trash bag and then just cut a giant hole and slowly like wiggle it down over the top of your plant and just put it at the bottom. Or if it's just a little tiny seedling, then you probably won't have to work that hard to get it down to the bottom. But do that and you'll you'll be able to block the rainwater from bouncing the soil back up without preventing the rainwater from getting to the soil. Because rainwater is good for soil. It has things in it that helps plants take the nutrients out of the soil, and also has nutrients in it itself, especially if it's been a thunderstorm. If you've had a thunderstorm nearby that's been very, very lightning heavy, then there are a lot of active nitrates in the atmosphere that get picked up by the rain as the rain falls after the lightning strikes. And that falls onto plants and gets collected in the clouds and carried into other areas as well. So you end up with fertilizers that get, it's basically like a foliar spray. They just get a free nitrogen spray on their leaves a lot of the time. That's why a lot of people always say, like, my garden or whatever, my grandma's garden always looks so great after a thunderstorm or after it rains, and that's why. That is one of the reasons why. It is also slightly acidic, which, even though there are plants that like alkaline stuff, a lot of plants you'll find likes the soil mildly acidic to be able to synthesize nutrients out of it. They'll like a pH of around 6.5 to 6.8. Things like melons and stuff like that tend to do way better after a thunderstorm because that is around the pH level of the rain that falls and hits the leaves. And they can pull that directly in from the leaves, not to mention the fact that they also are pulling it in through their root system among the other nutrients that get pulled into the soil by the rain. And then because rain doesn't fall in all the areas of the soil, because these plants have big ass leaves that direct the rain into specific zones, you have the sponge effect or the capillary action of the soil where there's dry pockets where the water is forced to be pulled into, and that helps pick up and pull other nutrients along in the soil. There's a lot of things like that that people just consider like, oh yeah, sure, it's just because it's like water and you didn't water them enough or whatever. There's a lot of science that goes into plants, and although nature can take care of itself pretty well, plants in nature also don't do well on average. If you go look at wild plants, pretty much all the wild berries in my area, half of the bushes are just like almost all yellow, with the canes being damaged. Half of the canes have borers in them. They're just devastated partially. But then, even though some are devastated, there are the ones that have somehow, throughout all of that other bullshit, been able to maintain nearly pristine and look amazing and give you the like best tasting berries out of them all normally. You can normally tell how healthy a bush is based off of the size of the berry that it produces on the like cap of the plant. At least the first time it flowers. Sometimes they grow so far that the top of the plant hits the ground and the new plant's top becomes the bend At least for where the production goes, like most of the energy in the plant, it always goes to the highest part of the plant for whatever reason. So the best berries will always be the ones that are the furthest ones lifted off the ground. So always, and a lot of the time people suck at berry picking because they don't do the like trick of following the stem. So if you like see a ripe berry on a thing, you'd pick the berry and put it in your container. But you can follow that stem down, and sometimes they shoot off berries along a stem that you wouldn't see, and you do like what I call the chicken bob, where you're like bobbing your head up and down to see on the inside of the bush where they are. But after this hunt, I'm gonna get off because my eyes are doing the thing where they like burn to keep them open because I've been up for so long. So I'm trying to get him dead. I just always think people think they can't garden, but that's because people will just, they grab a bag of stuff without looking at it. But then they also think that it's super complicated, and really, buying bags of soil is bad if you don't, if you have the choice, just make your own soil out of your ground, because your plant will be able to be adjusted to that, and if you save seeds from that plant, you can plant it again and it will grow better because it will be more adapted to the microclimate that you have in your zone, whatever soil bacteria and stuff like that. I say microclimate because that's really, a lot of the time you can move a plant 10 feet or have plants that are 6 or 7 feet away from each other, and one's doing so much better because there's some amount of difference in the soil that causes one to have a lot more available nutrients. And a lot of the times it's just down to microbes or even small things like worms. The activity of worms beneath the soil, which is really inhibited by a lack of ground cover. And that's why, another reason I always tell people, if you want more worms in your soil, to give you more surface nutrients. Because a worm isn't going to give you nutrients at the surface if he's down 6 inches in the soil, because the top half of the soil is getting too dry and too hot for him to survive. However, if you apply like a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of ground leaf litter to the top of your soil, you'd be surprised how much cooler the ground stays under that, and worms will literally stay almost underneath that surface layer, and you can walk out and tap the leaves with your hands and the worms will run. You'll see them like pop up out of the thing because they'll think that something's trying to dig for them. It's funny. What am I gonna get? I'm not even gonna make you wait for the loading screen. I'm just gonna get off now, because I just don't feel like I'll be back.